Hey, hey, hey! How are you guys this week? We're going to attempt to do this live on YouTube and Facebook again this week. It worked last week all right, so here we go. Um, I'm Jodi Carlton, if you guys are new to me, and I'm a neurodiversity expert and relationship coach. And I'm going to keep an eye on my Facebook live stream over here too. So, hi to everybody, and welcome. So, this is my weekly Ask Me Anything live at 5. That's 5 o'clock Eastern, which is where I am. Uh, and so, this is your opportunity basically to ask me whatever you need to know, whatever you want to know. And just to let you know, I've been working with autism now for over 15 years, and I've worked with teenagers and adults and couples and parents. But my focus now is with those of you who are in relationships, so marriages, long-term relationships, to help you figure out what you're seeing, and what you're experiencing, because it can be really confusing for both of you because you don't speak the same languages. And so that's what this whole coaching program is about. And this live at 5 is a free way for you to get uh, questions answered and to just talk to me. And so, anyway, I love doing this every week. And let me see if I've got any comments here. So, if you do, I already have, I keep sticking my head in front of this thing over here, which I want to talk to you guys about. If you have questions that you want to submit anonymously, you can do that ahead of time at our support at spectrumrelationships.com email. And I will just drop that here in the YouTube chat. And you can just email us really anything. But I wanted to just let you guys know I am constantly listening to you, what you want, and what you're asking me for in terms of coaching. So I talk to you here live on YouTube and Facebook, and I've got my private Facebook group where we have amazing conversations. If you're not in there, I would like to invite you to come join the group. And this group is for both partners, neurodiverse and neurotypical. And when I say neurodiverse, you guys, I'm referring to those to autism spectrum. Some of us still call it Asperger's. You don't have to have a formal diagnosis at all to be in this group. As a matter of fact, if you are trying to figure out if you're on the spectrum, I can help you out and help you get some clarity on that. But in this group, we all talk to each other. Our members ask questions of each other. We just added about 6 wonderful moderators who have been in the group for a while, and it's a great group. Hi, Rianne, good to see you. Um, so jump on over there. But this thing right here, what I want to talk to you guys about, I'm always listening to what you guys need from me. And one of the things that I have been offering for a while is a private coaching intensive, which is 2 months with me, and it's hardcore. We get really intense, and I'm interacting with you like almost every day for 2 months. So this is for couples who are really, really ready to upgrade their relationship. But I've been restructuring this whole coaching program based on what I've seen, what you guys are telling me, and what I see tends to work the best for those of you who really need to upgrade your relationship. And so a lot of you are also saying you want to work with me, you want to meet with me one on one. The only way to do that was through the intensive. So I am restructuring all of this to meet your needs and your requests. So you can now have a consultation with me, and the booking link is on the website. You get direct access to my calendar, you guys, and I'm putting appointment spots on there to be available to you. But you have 3 different options to book a consultation with me, and one is just a basic consultation to sort of figure out what's going on and what you need. The second is a neurodiversity screening, and some of you have already gone through this one with me, where you will get definitive clarity about whether or not you or your partner is on the spectrum, and where you fall on that spectrum, And that's a 90-minute consultation that we do. And the third one is a comprehensive relationship evaluation, where basically we'll do the neurodiversity screening. And I actually have both of you complete this screening, so I'll know where you both are on that spectrum. And then with the comprehensive relationship evaluation, we also do another very comprehensive questionnaire about each of you, and about your background, your personality, and your relationship. And I look at that. I get this huge 20-something page report. You get a big report with charts and graphs, and it's really cool because I love charts and graphs and numbers, and I know a lot of you do too. And we go through all of that, and I look at it through the lens of neurodiversity with my expertise of knowing what neurodiversity looks like in a relationship, how it shows up, how it affects your relationship. We look at all of that. It's a 2-hour consultation. We can break it into 2 sessions if 2 hours is too much. For some of you on the spectrum, 2 hours is too much. So we can break that down. And so anyway, just go to the website, spectrumrelationships.com, and you will see those 3 different evaluations available to you right now. And you can just go in and figure out what you need and pick a time and book your session. And at the end of all of those, we will have a game plan. We will formulate a plan for you, whether it's just you or if it's you and your partner. We will have a plan for you going forward about what's next for you, what you need in terms of coaching, and I have different programs available to help you. So I've got that up and ready for you guys. You've asked and it's ready. Hey, Clara, good to see you. Clara's here in my YouTube feed. She's one of my new moderators in the Facebook group. I do not see any comments in Facebook yet, and Amber, my assistant extraordinaire, is in my ear here talking to me if I need anything. So Amber, let me know if you see any comments in the Facebook group to make sure I don't miss anybody. Today, I have a question that's been submitted anonymously, and it really relates to something that I wanted to just start off today talking about. And that I get a lot of people ask me, how do you know if my relationship can work? You know, how do I even know that we can fix it? Because a lot of folks, when you first come to me, it's been years of angst and pain and heartache and miscommunication and disconnection. Some of you, it hasn't been years; it's been months, but it's hard. A lot of people don't know how. What are the factors that I look for to see if the relationship can be saved? And so there are 2 things. Well, 3, actually 3. And if these 3 things don't exist in your relationship, then it's very difficult to save, to salvage, and to fix. So number 1 is ability. And what I mean ability, what I mean by that is both of you. So you've got, if one of you is on the spectrum, or even if you're not, to be in a relationship, we have to have the ability, like the hardwired brain capacity to have to connect with another human being. We have to have the ability, even if it doesn't come really naturally, even if it's a little bit harder for somebody than the next, that ability to stop and self-reflect and to think about myself and what I'm bringing and contributing to the relationship, and also to attempt to understand our partner, the ability and to attempt to ask and be curious and be detectives and to learn. And some people have more trouble with that than others. And this is not always just about neurodiversity. It's not just about autism, Asperger's. It can be about other social developmental difficulties. Some people have personality disorders that are not autistic, and there's a block there. It is that individual can be neurotypical and not have the ability to actually connect with another human being. Look at my comments up here. So number one, we've got to have the ability, and folks on the spectrum absolutely can. Not everybody on the spectrum has that ability, but a lot do. Second is willingness. We each have to be willing, and this goes right along with number three, which is motivation. So willingness means I am actually willing to show up and give this effort. I am willing to learn. I'm willing to grow. I'm willing to look at myself and make some adjustments. So that's huge. And then motivation. We can be willing, but not motivated. So we can be willing to make changes that need to be made, but not actually motivated to do it. So, and this is true of anything in our life. So if a partner's willing, but then not motivated to actually implement the growth and the learning and the education, that's a problem. So these three things have to be there in order for there to be a chance of any relationship being salvaged. So I want you to just look at your own relationship in terms of those three things when you're wondering if it's salvageable. Now then, what do I do if those three things aren't there? And that leads me to the question that was submitted. So I'm going to go over to my other screen here and pull it up. Amber, I don't think I have any comments or questions yet, do I? All right. Okay, so I'm not going to read this whole thing because she sent me a pretty long email. But basically, she and her husband have been married for 18 years, together 21. She went through a very serious bout with cancer about 3 years ago. During that time, she said she started noticing her husband acting more strangely. Strangely is the word that she used. And she said he had no emotional response or empathy to this cancer. And the communication between her and him and the kids, the whole family, the communication, particularly with him, really started to deteriorate. And she said that she started to learn more about autism and suspect that there was some neurodiversity there, but that her husband was actually tested and was told, no, he's not on the spectrum. She said she doesn't know why, and that she's not sure it was a really legit evaluation because the traits are all there. And just on a side note, this is why I do not recommend official, formal assessment for adults on the spectrum. And I talk about this a lot, you guys, and this is a prime example of what I see and hear all the time. Providers who actually do a lot of testing for autism typically test children or teenagers. And autism in adults looks very different than it does in children and teenagers. And so if you go to a provider that says, and I hate to say this about my profession because I've been a licensed therapist. I was licensed for 20 years. But autism's kind of a hot topic right now, and there's a lot of people jumping on the autism bandwagon without any real live experience of what autism looks like in adults. And all the training, all the books, it is geared, even the testing is geared to children. So if you go to a provider that thinks they know what autism looks like, they are not going to recognize it in a really high-functioning adult. And when I say high-functioning, I mean somebody who's been capable of a college degree and career and marriage and parenting. I've actually had clients tell me that they were told one of them couldn't be on the spectrum because they have a college degree, which is not true. I work with so many people who are brilliant in their field and their careers. So this is something that happens, and this is one of the reasons why I've got this screening available to you now, because I can totally let you know whether or not if one of you is on the spectrum without you having to spend thousands of dollars to go get formally assessed and possibly not get an accurate result. So he's been and assessed, and now I don't know for sure if he is actually on the spectrum, but they were told he wasn't. She said couples counseling has failed 4 times, and one therapist actually refused to work with him. So that also tells me that the providers they're going to are really confused by this man. It's possible that he has a personality disorder. It's possible it's not autism, or it's possible that it's both. Sorry, my AirPods are trying to come out of my ears. It's possible that it's both. But whatever it is, the providers, the counselors that they've gone to don't know what to do with this. They don't know how to assess it. They don't know how to interpret it. They don't know what it is. And this couple has not been helped at all. And she says he can be abrupt and rude, but he denies it. And she said she's disconnected from him now. And they're still in the same. They're still married, but she's sleeping down the hall. But he blames everything, all the problems in the relationship, on her. The kids don't want to have anything to do with him. They've asked her several times to leave him, but she doesn't have a job or money. She says she's trying to take up hobbies and start to earn money for herself. And her husband's blaming her for turning the children against him. He's argumentative, takes things literally, lacks a sense of humor. Special interest is religion. Too busy for us, different eating habits, can't see different points of view, intolerant, impatient, but can't understand why we don't like him and blames it all on me. She says, I've tried everything I know, please help me. So what I'm hearing in this is possibly autism, possibly narcissism, or some other type of personality disorder. But what I'm also hearing, and I don't know for sure what she's dealing with, she could be dealing with both. I've got a course about that. Which one is it? Is it autism, narcissism, or is it both? What I'm hearing, though, is that her husband is not willing to recognize what he's bringing to it. We both bring our own stuff, our own mistakes, our own background, our own history, our own values, our own insecurities, our own behaviors to our relationships. And we each have to be willing to say, what am I doing? And we have to be willing to listen to our partner and say, what is your perspective? What am I not understanding about you? We have to have that willingness. And then we have to be motivated to go, okay, this doesn't feel good. I don't like it very much, but I'm willing and I'm motivated and I want this relationship. Motivation has to do with that desire that drives us to make that relationship last. What I'm not hearing in this woman's email to me is that her husband has the willingness or the motivation. Now, that can come from a couple of different reasons. Sometimes, after a while, a relationship can become just so that there's just kind of a check out, shut down. And if there's insecurities, if there's been conflict, then a couple can be in what I call an antagonistic stance. So you're not on the same team. You're like in a boxing ring and you both have the gloves on, and your partner is your opponent. And so this is not necessarily completely unsalvageable. But what it sounds like to me is they have not had, if it is salvageable, the providers they've gone to, the counselors they've gone to have not known how to work with them in a way that reduces the antagonism. so that we can't even begin to learn how to connect until the antagonism and the conflict is minimized. And that's step one. You guys, I'm completely restructuring my communication program. I'm excited because it's called Crack the Communication Code. It's even got its own URL. So crackthecommunicationcode.com. It's a lot of the same. It's the same program that I've had, but I'm packaging it in a 5-step model. And the first step is free, you guys. It's called Battle Busters. Some of you have already done it. The second step's only 25 bucks. I mean, come on. Those first 2 steps help to reduce the conflict, because if this couple, if he's shut down and not able to accept any blame or any not blame, if he's not able to accept any responsibility for his share in this, it could be because it's so antagonistic and there's so much conflict, and we've got to minimize that first. Now, if he is a toxic person, that's it's not just about autism, or maybe he really truly lacks the ability to that ability piece, that he may lack the ability to self-reflect, which is cognitive empathy. We self-reflect and understand that someone else's point of view is different than ours. So there's a lot of variables here, but if he doesn't lack that, if he doesn't have that ability, then it may not be about toxicity or personality disorder, but all of that, we have to figure out all of that in order to determine what to do next. And if this woman's husband is not able or not willing or not motivated, even if she learns that battle buster system, how to minimize the conflict, one partner can start the whole process. If she learns it and he still is not able to respond, there's not really a relationship to be had. And it pains me to say that, because I want your relationships to work. I am a champion for neurodiverse relationships. I believe in you guys. I believe in them. I see them working, and I see them being a beautiful thing. But we do have to accept sometimes when it's not going to work. And that's as important as making a relationship work that can work. Because if you're in a relationship that's a dead end, you are wasting years of your life, both of you. And it's important to recognize where you are for your mental health, your emotional health, for your quality of life. Let me see if I have any questions here. Anybody talking to me? Oh, okay. Yes, I do. So, quantum contact with McKenna. So you're saying, I love your usernames, you guys, that crack me up on YouTube. So you said both myself and my special person are on the spectrum and are incredibly alike, but when the emotional intimacy becomes very real and deep, he runs. He always comes back, but he runs. Is this common? Yeah, you know what? Let me hide this thing. There we go. So what you're talking about is a retreat from intimacy. So what I would, yes, to answer your question, this can be common, but let's don't just leave it at that. Let's not say, okay, it's common, move on. Let's look at why. It's really important to look at the root of behavior. So for a lot of folks on the spectrum, and you're saying you're both on the spectrum, but for a lot of folks, when things start to get overwhelming, it triggers a fight or flight response. So intimacy can be overwhelming because intimacy involves a lot of processing, a lot of connecting, a lot of basically listening to your partner, understanding, it's an energy. There's a lot of energy there. And when you say emotional intimacy, it sounds to me like there's conversation happening there. There's some connection happening. That can be really overwhelming depending on how the emotional intimacy happens. And so it may be, and when you say he runs, I would be curious to know what that means. So, does he run? Does that mean he just needs a little time, a little downtime? Like introverts sometimes just need time to re-energize. They need to recharge their battery. And most people on the spectrum are introverts. So is he actually running, or is he just needing some time to process? Um, if he's running and retreating and freaking out and you said he comes back, it sounds like something about the intimacy is overwhelming him. And so you might want to take a look at how you go about these emotional intimacy moments. Some people can get flooded in those if it's a conversation and it lasts too long. That flooding can happen if there's too many questions, if there's a pursuit, if there's for some people on the spectrum have told me it scares when they have an intimate conversation, they're afraid that it's always going to lead to sex. And even though they say, I like sex, but I'm afraid to have this conversation about that's intimate because I'm afraid it's always going to lead to sex and I'm not always ready for sex. So that's also something to consider. So I encourage you to ask, um, to basically go through a series of questions of why. So what I mean by that is it's the 5 levels of why. So why is that? Why is he running? And then whatever the answer is to that, why is that? And then whatever the answer is to that, why is that? Keep going 5 levels deep. And maybe ask yourself first and see if you can kind of come up with a theory, some ideas, but then have that conversation with your partner and see if, and it may be that needs to happen via text or email or in person, whatever's easiest. Sometimes in-person conversation can be intense and overwhelming. That was a great question. All right, let's see. I don't know if my Facebook group's really streaming properly, you guys. I hope it is. Anyway, hi, David. Okay, good. I was getting a latency error or something, but whatever. Hi, David. Good to see you. I don't know if I've seen you here before. So you said, I think my girlfriend is on the spectrum. She projects any issues onto me. She can't take criticism, and it feels like she's on a different frequency. Okay, so projecting, really, what we mean, when someone says projecting, I just want to say what I mean by that, and to clarify, I don't know if you're meaning the same thing, but projection is basically when whatever's going on with me, I don't even realize it, but I'm assuming that it's going on for you too. So if I'm worried, frustrated, or if I'm defensive or feeling critical, then I'm going to just assume that you're the same. And so, David, if that's what you mean by that, this usually for neurodiverse folks has to do with cognitive empathy, or what we call theory of mind. And what that means is not a difficulty in understanding that others have a totally different perspective and point of view than us. And so folks on the spectrum can become aware of the other perspective, other point of view, other reality of their partner, but sometimes it has to be pointed out. So oftentimes neurodiverse folks just assume that they understand what their partner is thinking or feeling or doing, and the why, because they just use their own frame of reference, and that is themselves. So why would I do that? Why would I say that? Why would, this is why my partner is doing it, because there's this lack of understanding that my partner could be coming from a totally different place. And I use this analogy a lot, and I'll say it again. I use the analogy of the mountain. And one side of the mountain is rocky and doesn't have a whole lot of trees. The other side can be lush with lots of trees and greenery. And just imagine that each of you are standing on opposite sides of the mountain. And this is an analogy you can use with your partner. And if I ask you both to describe the mountain, you're going to tell me totally different things. One of you is going to describe it as rocky and barren, and the other one's going to describe it as really green. But who's right? Nobody. You're both right. And so folks on the spectrum sometimes forget that you are on the other side of that mountain, that you are seeing and experiencing the entire relationship or the conversation or the situation from a really different point of view. And so sometimes that just needs to be made known to help that awareness click in for your partner. I hope that was helpful, David. Oh, hi, Wendy. Wendy's over in my Facebook group, and she says the why questions are overwhelming to me. Okay, I feel criticized when asked why do you feel that way? Why? Okay, there's a difference. I'm glad you said that, Wendy. There's a difference between being interrogated. That's what you're talking about, and the 5 levels of why. So the 5 levels of why is investigative. It is a detective process. It's when you are trying to discover what's going on and what the reason is underneath something. You're trying to get to the root of something. That is very different than an interrogation, which it feels more like judgment. It feels like criticism, like you said. Well, why would you do that? What? Why did you do that? Why do you feel that way? That comes across more as that makes no sense to me. Why are you doing that? That's not what the 5 levels of why is. So that question though is the same question, but it has the way it's presented, the tone and the intention of the question is really important. And when you're being interrogated and you're being asked to justify your decisions, that's an interrogation, and that doesn't feel good to anybody. And that you can say, you know what, I'm feeling interrogated and I don't need to justify myself. But if your partner's walking you through, okay, let's figure this out. Why do you think it is that you feel that way? And then or you did that, and what was the reason you did that? What's that's how we go about the 5 levels of why. Hi, Tammy. I'll get back to you in just a second. Tammy's over on my Facebook group. So, hi, Clara. Clara says, Jodi, is it common for undiagnosed Aspie dads to have a strained relationship with their kids from issues of dealing with the kid's mom? Okay, that's a big question because there's a couple of layers there. So, is it common for an undiagnosed Aspie dad to have a strained relationship with their kids? Yes. It's common for any undiagnosed Aspie to have difficult relationships with the people in their lives, because if it's undiagnosed and there's not an awareness there, there's a framework missing for understanding how these two different people, this neurotypical, and sometimes it's neurodiverse, so you can have an Aspie dad with Aspie kids. There's not a framework for understanding the way the communication and the interaction, the differences in the way emotion is processed, sensory issues are processed. When that framework's not there, it's very difficult, and it does cause rifts in relationships. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It can be a parent-child relationship. So yes, and the second half of your question was from issues of dealing with the kid's mom. So basically what that is saying is, can kids have a strained relationship with dad because of the way they see dad and mom interacting? Well, yes. Anytime parents have a difficult time communicating, and if there's a neurodiverse relationship where you've got an undiagnosed Aspie and someone who is neurotypical, and that framework's not there, there's gonna be problems. There just is. There's a communication wall there that's invisible, that you don't know that you're speaking different languages and you're using definitions differently, and your expectations aren't going to be the same. So without that framework, yes, there's all sorts of opportunity for dysfunction there. Good question. Okay, McKenna, you were saying withdrawal and it's the feelings. Okay, yeah, so you were just responding back to the me answering your question earlier. Hi, Glenn, good to see you. Glenn says, I don't like to wear t-shirt and jeans all the time, but I like to dress sharp, especially with wearing a suit and tie. Is it possible for men wearing a suit and tie to go on the date? Well, yeah. But I know, Glenn, you've asked me some dating questions, several weeks here, and I think it's important to know, to address according to the date. And if it's coffee, if it's coffee, you've never met this woman before, and you're having coffee, then suit and tie is a little bit of that's a bit of overkill. If it's the third or fourth date in, and you're going to a nice restaurant, you're taking her out, then yes, you can wear a suit and tie. But I would recommend that you let her know that you want to kind of get dressed up for the evening, because a woman is going to feel very uncomfortable if she shows up in jeans and a t-shirt and you have a suit and tie on. It means that you're not in alignment in that moment. You are coming with an expectation of something more formal, and she showed up underdressed for that. So it's important to communicate what you're hoping for. And a suit and tie would not typically be something that you wouldn't dress that way in the first few dates. And if you do, again, make it really clear, I'd like to kind of get dressed up, put on a nice dress, and let's go out and let's do something, and let's look nice. All right, let me jump over to Tammy. You're welcome, Clara. Tammy says, I totally understand, because my Aspie husband didn't come to any of my appointments when I was diagnosed with cancer. So you're referring back to the woman that I was talking about who had cancer. You said that was the straw that broke the camel's back, and that's when I began educating myself on why we don't speak the same language. He's been abrupt, opinionated, disrespectful to strangers, accepts no accountability. He's incredibly intelligent and loves cartoons and musicals. We've been married for 32 years, separated now for 3. He doesn't want a divorce, but I don't think I can do this much longer. My relationship with him is no different than any other male friend I have. When I've mentioned divorce, he tells me I'm a quitter. I'm not a quitter, I just need a different life. So this is where I'm hearing your husband has willingness. I don't know if he has the ability or not, but he has willingness. He doesn't want a divorce. He wants this relationship to remain a marriage. But is there motivation there to actually do the work that is involved in figuring out the neurodiverse framework, the communication gap? All of that has to be done in a disconnected relationship. So Tammy, that goes back to, he may be capable. He's brilliant. You say he's brilliant. He's brilliant in a lot of ways, but he may still not be capable in terms of social relational abilities. He may or may not be capable. He's willing. He doesn't want to end the relationship, but is he motivated? I don't know. And so that's a question to really consider. And it's possible that he's not motivated because he doesn't know how. He doesn't know how to fix this. So many people come to me who don't know how. And this is the number one reason why we don't change. Even when we're willing, the number one reason people don't actually make a change is because they don't know how. And that's why I have this coaching program for you guys, because I break it down for you step by step. The communication program, cracking that communication code, is fundamental. It's fundamental, and I break it down one step at a time for you guys. So if maybe he just doesn't know how, and it might be time for you guys to start the communication program. And I'm seeing that you're not a quitter. You're not a quitter, but at some point, if it's not going anywhere, if there's no direction and there's no motivation, then that's not being a quitter. That's recognizing that it's time to move on. And that's an important boundary to set for ourselves. All right. XT13 on YouTube says, my husband's undiagnosed Aspie has mood changes all the time. He can be sweet and then rude. It plays with my mind, so how should I deal with this? And then you also said, why do I deal with undiagnosed Aspie husband putting down my emotions, please? Why do I deal with that? So You're saying he can be sweet and then rude, so it's flipping back and forth. Um, how to deal with this? You're saying he's undiagnosed, so we don't really know for sure that he's on the spectrum. If he is, then folks on the spectrum oftentimes don't have any kind of filter. And so whatever they are thinking or experiencing is going to come out of their mouth. And so it for someone who's neurotypical, this can feel very rude because we have this social relational filter that is built into us. It's developmentally um, programmed into us in the early developmental years where we start to learn when it's okay to say something and when it's not a great idea to say what we're thinking. And we understand it, why this is necessary. It's an automatic thing for us. Whereas folks on the spectrum oftentimes don't understand why it's not a good idea to just say exactly what you're thinking. And that's what comes across as rude. And if that framework is not there, or if there's not really a clear understanding of that framework, that the comments that are being said, it can feel very hurtful, and it feels like our partner doesn't care about our feelings, doesn't care if they're hurting our feelings. The thing is, he may not really realize that he's hurting your feelings because he may not have um, a real good sense of what your feelings are. um, I talk about this a lot. Feelings are physiological sensations that are attached to emotions. A lot of neurodiverse folks don't have the physiological sensation that accompanies emotion. So, this is one of the reasons why folks on the spectrum don't understand the feelings, and I put it in air bunnies because that's what it is sometimes to neurodiverse folks. These feelings things, what are those? They're very real, very legit, but they may not understand. If you're neurodiverse and you're here, one of the reasons why you may not get what your partner means when they're talking about their feelings is that you don't have the physiological sensation in your body that accompanies emotion. And this is a sensory dysfunction, a sensory processing dysfunction where the brain is not interpreting body sensations and then sending a signal to the brain of that there is a sensation happening. So neurodiverse folks can say things that are really rude. And your second question, or that are interpreted as rude by neurotypicals. Your second question is, why or how I think to deal with an undiagnosed Aspie putting down my emotions. We just don't own it. And we put when a neurodiverse partner puts us down for having the emotions that we're having, it may or may not be. Now, you say he's undiagnosed, so I don't know if this is really autism or if this is something else, some kind of toxic personality that's just mean. I don't know. But regardless, when someone dismisses and devalues our experience, we get to say, nope, I know what my experience is. And nobody else gets to tell me what I'm experiencing. I know my experience. And you don't have to argue with them. You don't have to engage and convince and justify. You just get to say, no, you're not me. And you don't get to decide for me what I'm feeling. And you don't get to decide if what I'm feeling is okay or not. And leave it at that. And if your partner is unwilling or unmotivated to respect that, you may have a problem. Because we can't force anybody. We can't control anybody to be willing or motivated to hear us and to be respectful of what we are experiencing. Okay. So Glenn, yes, you have another question. You said, I'm planning on going into politics someday to serve with the people. If I'm a politician, can you still meet a single woman and go on the date? Glenn, it doesn't matter what you do for a living. You can meet a single woman no matter what you do for a living. All right, you are welcome, XT. Okay, I don't have any other comments or questions over on Facebook right now. So, what else do you guys have for me? Okay, McKenna says, yes, when negative emotions engage for others, I go straight to logical detachment, no feelings. Like a different part of my brain switches on and they look like an alien to me. I'm glad you said that because I have used this alien model for a while, and I first started using it when I was working with teenagers on the spectrum, and I called it my Superman model because Superman was an alien, but he looked human, but he was an alien, and he had all these different abilities, and he misunderstood human sometimes. He was raised by humans, so not as much, but it's like it resonated so much with my Aspies of feeling like either I'm the alien or you're the alien. We look alike, but we are, something. We don't do life the same way. I don't speak your language, and I don't feel like I'm even from your planet, or you're not from mine. And I love the way you said that when the negative emotions that it's like a shutdown. It's like my brain cannot process. I don't know what to do with this. Shut the switch down. I don't even know how to go there. And you are in a realm right now that I'm not even able to process. And neurotypical, and you're on the spectrum, right? Yeah, I think you both are. So thank you for sharing that. So helpful when my Aspie folks show up and share their experiences. Um, because my neurotypical folks, and I'm neurotypical, I've experienced being on the other side of that where the shutdown happens, the switch flips, and the shutdown happens. And those of us who are neurotypical don't understand what's going on, and neither do you guys, neurodiverse, if that framework's not there. And so all of a sudden there's just this disconnect. And in the neurotypical world, this typically means I don't care. I don't want to know. I don't care about you. I don't want to know how, I don't want to, I don't know. I want to know what you're saying. The negative emotion usually means there's some unpleasantness happening. And neurotypicals interpret that as I don't care about you. Because that's what it means in neurotypical speak. When someone shuts us off and shuts us down and is like, I don't want to hear about it. Never speak. Just don't talk about that again. That's a shutdown, and that means somebody doesn't care about our feelings. So you guys are both neurodiverse, but you're saying that your partner retreats. That's kind of what's happening. It sounds like. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear my dogs. I forgot to close the door to my office. 88. How are you? Okay, you said I find that whenever I tell my husband tell my Aspie husband, whenever I tell my Aspie husband puts down my emotions and I defend it, he gets extremely mad for not agreeing with him. I feel he thinks I don't support him if I don't agree with him. Yeah, okay, so this is back to theory of mind and cognitive empathy. So a lot of times a neurodiverse person doesn't realize that you have a different perspective, and it doesn't mean that anybody's right or wrong. But when someone says I don't agree with you, it's like it rocks their world, because to them that is the world. That is the way the world thinks and feels. And when someone else says no, it's not, it means there's something wrong with them, because you're saying to me that you don't have the same opinion as me, which means something's wrong with me. Something's wrong with my opinion, and I don't like that. I don't like you telling me that. I feel criticized. I feel like you're trying to tell me something's wrong with me, when in reality, you're only telling them your own opinion. So if you're on the spectrum, and this sounds familiar, it's really important. Think of the mountain analogy that I gave you. It's really important to know that your partner, your coworker, your boss, your kid can have a different perspective, a different opinion, a different point of view from you, and it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you or them. It just means you're looking at the situation from a different set of angles. If you go outside and you set up cameras in different spots, every camera is going to pick up something different. As human beings, we have different brains, different skill sets, different ways of processing the world, different histories, different backgrounds, different experiences, different values. All of that influences how we interpret a situation or what we think about it. And there are very few things that are actually facts. Now, this is something that those of you on the spectrum struggle with sometimes, because what you think is a fact a lot of times is really just your opinion. And I say just your opinion. Your opinion's important. I don't mean it's not important. But facts are hard, black and white. And there are some facts in this world, yes. But when it comes to relations and opinions and perspectives and feelings and emotions and behaviors, most of that is not factual. It's perspective and opinion, and there's not a right or wrong, yes or no, black and white answer. So keep that in mind, because when you feel criticized because your partner has a different perspective, instead of getting defensive, I encourage you to be a detective and go, can you tell me more about what you mean? That is one of the best questions, you guys, that you can insert into your relationship. Can you tell me more about what you mean? That one question can totally change your relationship. Try it. Hi, LJ. Good to see you again. You said my Aspie is always having troubles with a sleep schedule. No matter how much he tries, he keeps ending up sleeping all day and up all night, and it causes strain on us ever seeing each other. Yeah, okay. So he's in a different time zone, it sounds like. And for whatever reason, once you get in a different time zone, it's hard to change it. It's literally, you're going to have jet lag, like when you fly to another country and you literally go to a different time zone. So his body has gotten set, and this is where the 5 levels of why is important. So it's important to just start at the beginning. You know, why is he sleeping at a different time than you? What started that? What was the reason for that? Why does it continue? What is the benefit? Why? Try to just be a detective to understand it, because none of us can really ever fix something just because we should or we need to or somebody wants us to. There's a reason why we do everything we do. There is a reason. It's not random. We do the things we do for a reason. And he's sleeping when he sleeps for a reason. It's important to figure out what that is. And just saying wanting him to change, or him even wanting to change, just that motivation can be there, that willingness can be there, but the motivation to change really comes in the detective work of figuring out what is actually the reason. So you can really just want him to change it, and you can feel hurt because he doesn't, but there's a reason why he's not. And so it's important to get to the root of what is actually the reason, because it's impossible really to facilitate or implement any kind of change unless we understand why we're doing something to start with, what contributed to it, and be motivated to actually make that change. McKenna, you're cracking me up. He says, what? My opinion is not fact? Not sure about that. I love your sense of humor there. Yes, I'm sorry to be the one to share that with you, but thank you. I love that. Your humor's fun. Holy cow, you guys, it's already been an hour. This goes by so fast. Let me see if I missed anything over here. Okay. All right. Amber was just talking to me. Am I good? Have I gotten everybody? Okay. All right, so I'm just going to wrap up there and just seriously, guys, let me turn this back on. If you want to get on a consultation with me, um, book a call with me, and if you really need to um, figure out where to go from here. And booking a consultation with me does not lock you into like anything. I'm not going to lock you down and say you need to do this, this, and this, and you've got to pay a whole bunch of money. Um, but it will get you started, and we will figure out together what I do recommend for you. And then, it'll be up to you to choose how you proceed. But uh, let's see, Amber, can you get to the YouTube feed and drop the link for the private coaching in here? Okay, and also on the Facebook feed, just straight to the consultation page. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, if you guys don't have anything else for me, I'm gonna wait for Amber to be able to drop that in before I cut the live stream off. If you're not in my Facebook group, come on over. Um, if you're not on my email list, here's something. I used to be able to make announcements for upcoming programs and workshops and things in the Facebook group, but Facebook has completely throttled me back and only shows my announcements and posts to about 10% of you who are in there. So you really need to have your notifications turned on Facebook so you get my announcements and posts. But the absolute best way to get all of my communications is to be on my email list. So if you're not, shoot an email to support email that I put in the feed, support@spectrumrelationships.com. We don't spam you a whole lot. I am about to start sending out a tip probably once every couple of weeks. It's like a little video clip or some kind of tip just to kind of keep you guys, give you as much help and support as I can. All right. Amber, I'm not seeing that yet. You trying to find it? Okay. There may just be a delay on my end. All right, you guys, if for some reason that you don't, oh, yep, there it goes. Did you drop that in the Facebook group too? Okay. All right. Well, I will see you guys next week, next Tuesday, same place, same time. If you need anything from us, don't hesitate to reach out. And thanks for being here, and I'll see you guys next week. So, bye-bye. Okay.